Hello, in this video, we will go over the difference between finding the derivatives of a polar function and finding the slope of a tangent line. Then we will learn how to find horizontal and vertical tangents with respect to polar coordinates. Okay, so we are learning tangent line and polar coordinates, so calculus of polar, slope, area, and length. So the slope of a polar function versus tangent slope. So as you can recall, slope is derivative. So if r equals f theta, r prime would be f prime theta, and r double prime would be f double prime theta, right? And over here, if you have dy dx, given r equals r f theta, so these are reviews of a lot equations that we already went through. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. X can also be expressed as r times cosine theta. Y equals r times sine theta, and tangent theta is y over x. So all we're essentially is doing is taking the derivative of r in respect to theta. That's all we're doing. So dr d theta, d square r over d theta squared, that's the second derivative. And dy dx, so dy dx is the derivative of r sine theta. And then dx is the derivative of r cosine theta. So over here, right here, we took the derivative of d r theta. So how do you take see, you're multiplying r times theta. So how do you take the derivative of two multiples? You use the product rule, right? So if you recall, product rule is f prime of g plus g prime of f. And then over here, my f would be r, and then my g would be sine theta. Okay, and then if you take the product rule, you get this. The same thing here. Your f is r and your g is cosine theta. Product rule, you get this. Okay. Slope of tangent line. So slope of tangent line is just what we went over. It's the derivative of r times sine theta, which they apply the product rule and you get this. And then on the bottom, when you take the derivative r times cosine theta, you get this. So on the top, it's the horizontal tangent where the top equals 0. And then on the bottom, it's your vertical tangent where the bottom equals 0. Okay. So let's use this formula to do example 1. Okay, so example 1 says for the cardio, r equals 1 plus sine theta. Find A, the slope of the tangent when theta equals pi over 4. Find B, write the equation of the tangent line when theta equals pi over 4. And part C says find the points where the tangent line is horizontal or vertical. Okay, so let's do part A where they're saying find the slope of the tangent line when theta is pi over 4. Okay, so tangent is equal to dy over dx. So yeah, dy dx is the derivative of r times sine theta. And then on the bottom, it's the derivative of r cosine theta. So if you apply the product rule, your f is r and your g is sine theta, you get r prime of sine theta plus r times cosine theta. Okay, on the bottom, if you apply the product rule where f is r and your g is cosine theta, you get r prime cosine theta minus r sine theta. Okay. Okay. So if my r is, this was given, if r was 1 plus sine theta, what would be my r prime? Because we need to find r prime because it's part of the formula. R prime is, well, the derivative of 1 is 0. The derivative of sine theta is cosine, positive cosine theta, right? So all you got to do is replace r prime with cosine theta. So over here, r prime, you replace that with cosine theta, times it by sine theta, plus r, which is 1 plus sine theta, times it by cosine theta. All over, and then do the bottom. So r prime is cosine theta times it by cosine theta minus r, which is 1 plus sine theta, times it by sine theta. Okay, then you can just plug in theta for pi over 4, right? Theta was pi over 4, so go ahead and plug in theta for pi over 4. It would be cosine of pi over 4 times sine pi over 4. Do the bottom as well, replace theta with pi over 4. Okay, and then just plug in your value. So we know that cosine and sine of pi over 4 is positive radical 2 over 2, right? Okay, so over here you could replace that with positive radical 2 over 2 times sine of pi over 4 is positive radical 2 over 2 plus 1 plus sine of pi over 4 is square root 2 over 2 times cosine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2 over the bottom. Cosine of pi over 4 is positive radical 2 over 2. The sine of pi over 4 is positive radical 2 over 2. Minus 1 plus sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. And then sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. So if you kind of clean this up, this right here would be 2 over 4 plus this. When you multiply this out, you would get radical 2 over 2 plus 2 over 4 all over. And then over here, if you FOIL that out, you get 2 over 4 minus, and over here, when you clean this out, you get radical 2 over 2 plus 2 over 4. Okay, and then you keep on cleaning it up, the numerator it becomes 1 plus radical 2 over 2 over, and then when you clean this up, the bottom, you're going to get negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay, you have a complex fraction. You can simplify, so simplify the numerator. 1 could be expressed as 2 over 2 over negative square root of 2 over 2. And then when you finally clean that up, you get 2 plus radical 2 over negative radical 2, right? So this is just the slope of tangent. I believe that's what they want in part A. They said find the slope of the tangent. So yes, this is going to be the answer for part A, the slope of tangent. Okay, now in part B, we got to find the equation of tangent. So remember, if they ever ask you for the equation of tangent, you're going to most likely use point slope form. So part B, they're asking for the equation of tangent. So that is going to be y minus y1 equals to m x1. So what do we have the m, right? We do have the slope, but we don't have, so my m is 2 plus radical 2 all over negative radical 2, right? We have the m, but we don't have the y1 and the x1, right? We don't have the x coordinate, and we don't have a y coordinate. That was not given. But they do tell us that theta is pi over 4. So yeah, what we need is what do we know? We know that an x coordinate can also be expressed as r times cosine theta. And we also know that y coordinate can also be expressed as r times sine theta. Ready? And what else do they tell us? Mm, yes, they tell us that r is what? That was given. R was 1 plus sine theta. Okay, so I think we can find the x and the y now, right? We can find the x coordinate and the y coordinate, so it's going to be x equals r, which is 1 plus sine theta, times it by cosine theta. And then all you got to do is replace theta with pi over 4, so that's 1 plus sine of pi over 4 times by cosine of pi over 4. Sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. Cosine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. And if you clean that up and if you FOIL it out, you're going to get radical 2 over 2 plus 1/2. I guess you can simplify that even more because the twos on the bottoms are the same, so it's going to be radical 2 plus 1 all over 2. Okay, so this is your x coordinate, and then let's find the y. So the y is r times sine theta. So our r is 1 plus sine theta times it by sine theta. And then replace theta with pi over 4. And then it's just 1 plus sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. And then sine of pi over 4 is positive radical 2 over 2, right? And what happens is when you simplify it, it also becomes radical 2 over 2. So when you simplify and FOIL it out, you get radical 2 over 2 plus 1/2, but that can be simplified as radical 2 plus 1 all over 2. Okay, now is that our answer? No, that's just, so this whole thing is your y coordinate. We need that to put it in this form, right? So now we can simplify it. So it's going to be y minus my y1, which is this, equals to my m, and that was given from part A. So my m was, what is our m? This one right here. 2 plus radical 2 all over negative square root of 2, right? And then it's times x minus x1, which is, what's my x1? It is uh, this one. And I guess that's it. That's your final answer. So this is your answer for part B. So if you want to look, I guess if you want to look at the bigger picture, because in part C we got to find the horizontal tangent and the vertical tangent. So let's kind of draw the image or see the bigger picture. If you graph so if you graph one r equals 1 plus sine theta, that is a cardioid, and it would look something like this. It would look something like this. And then your theta, if your theta was pi over 4, right, it would, here's pi over 4. Here's pi over 6. It's pi over 3. Here's pi over 4, the tangent. Remember, tangent only hits the graph once, so this would be tangent. So this is the slope of, whoops, right here is the slope of tangent. M equals 2 plus radical 2 all over minus radical 2. And so if you recall, a vertical tangent is a vertical line like this. So you have a vertical tangent here, and you also have a vertical tangent right here. And then horizontal tangent would be, one would be right here. So this would be, yeah, horizontal tangent. And then you have a horizontal tangent here. And then I believe you also have one right here. Okay, so it's good to see the picture because in part C, they're going to ask for the horizontal tangent and the vertical tangent. So let's move on to part C. So part C, they want to know the horizontal tangent and the vertical tangent. So if you recall, a horizontal tangent always has a slope of 0, and a vertical tangent is the slope of any kind of vertical tangent is undefined or 1 over 0, right? Okay. So yeah, vertical tangent, the slope, we're going to set that to 1 over 0 or undefined. And then horizontal, we're going to set the slope to 0. So if you recall, horizontal is, what would horizontal be? It would be cosine theta, sine theta. Wait, so it's dy over dx, right? So that would be, I mean, horizontal tangent. First, we got to find our theta, right? So with the horizontal, it's going to be cosine theta times sine theta plus uh, r, which is 1 plus sine theta, times it by cosine theta equals 0. And then cosine, this right here stays the same, so it's going to be cosine theta sine theta plus, and if I FOIL this cosine theta out, you get cosine theta plus cosine theta sine theta equals 0. if you clean this up a bit more, you get 2. And then over here, you could factor out the cosine theta. That would be cosine theta times 2 sine theta plus 1 equals 0. And then if you set each equation to 0, right, you get cosine theta equals 0. And then 2 sine theta plus 1 equals 0. And then over here, cosine theta equals to 0. That would be, where's what degree in radians gives you a cosine of 0? I think that would be pi halves and 3 pi halves. And then over here, if you solve for sine theta, you're going to subtract 1, and then divide by 2. So you get sine theta equals negative 1/2. And that would be 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. Okay. Now let's do the vertical. So vertical would be uh, so on the vertical, it would be cosine theta times cosine theta minus r, which is 1 plus sine theta times it by sine theta. And we set that to 1 over 0. And then over here is, so if you kind of, this would clean up as cosine theta, minus, and then if I like FOIL out this minus, well, if I FOIL out this sine theta, that would be sine theta plus sine squared theta. And then if I distribute that minus, that would be negative sine theta minus sine squared theta. Equals to 1/2 or 1 over 0. Uh, cosine theta times cosine theta is cosine squared theta minus, and then you could just put the negative sine squared next, minus sine theta equals to 1 over 0. And then you can use your trig identities. Cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta is the same thing as 1 minus 2 sine squared theta. And then you still have this negative sine theta. I want to factor this out. Wait, so I'm going to set this to 0, not 1/2, 1 over 0. It's actually 0. So I want to FOIL this out. I mean, factor this out. But yeah, I got to get rid of this minus. So if I factor out a minus 1, you get 2 sine squared theta plus sine theta minus 1 equals 0. And then get rid of this minus 1 by dividing both sides by negative 1. So now you get 0 equals 2 sine square theta plus sine theta minus 1. And then when you factor that out, you're going to get 2 sine theta minus 1 times sine theta plus 1. So when you set each equation to 0. So this would be, when you clean that up, that's going to be sine theta. For this one right here, if you set that to 0 and solve for sine theta, you're going to get sine theta equals to 1/2. And then the other one, if you set sine theta plus 1 to 0, you're going to get, and then you set it to 0, solve for sine theta, you're going to get sine theta equals to negative 1. Okay, so over here, sine theta equals 1/2. What does that mean? What degree in radians is going to give you a positive sine of 1/2? That is going to be pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, and oops, this is 5 pi over 6. And then over here, where is sine theta gives you, what degree gives you a sine of negative 1? That would be 3 pi halves. So if you look at our theta, notice that 3 pi halves repeats, so we can just, exclude that. So we could ignore it. Or actually, no, not ignore it, just use 1. Yeah, just use 1. So I think you can eliminate this one. And so your theta for your horizontal tangents, so your theta for horizontal tangents are pi halves, 7 pi over 6, and 11 pi over 6. And then for your vertical tangent, your theta is going to be pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, and 3 pi over 2. Okay. So what we're trying to do is find the coordinate. So the coordinate, so for theta, for pi over 2, it's going to be 1 plus sine theta, which is pi over 2, comma pi over 2. And when you simplify that, that's going to give you 2 comma pi over 2. Okay, so that's one of your answer. And then for theta, when theta is 7 pi over 6, it's going to equal to 1 plus sine of 7 pi over 6, comma 7 pi over 6. And when you clean that up, that gives you 1/2, comma 7 pi over 6. And then for the theta, 11 pi over 6 is going to give you 1 plus sine of 11 pi over 6, comma 11 pi over 6. And that gives you an x coordinate of 1/2 and a y coordinate of 11 pi over 6. And then if you do the vertical tangent, right? The vertical tangent, so when theta is pi over 6, it's going to give you 1 plus sine of pi over 6, comma pi over 6. So your x coordinate would be, when you simplify this is going to give you 3 halves, and then your y is still pi over 6. Okay, and then when theta is pi over 6, that is going to give you 1 plus sine of 5 pi over 6, comma 5 pi over 6. And that gives you 3 halves, comma 5 pi over 6. And then lastly, for the vertical tangent when theta is 3 pi over 2, that's going to give you 1 plus sine of 3 pi over 2, comma 3 pi over 2. So that's going to give you 0, comma 3 pi over 2. Okay, so yeah, that is the answer for part C. Okay, so we can stop here.